so that we can begin and be together. And I want to say Shabbat Shalom. And there's just nothing. I mean, I know we're on Zoom and I know it's crazy and it's nuts, but there's nothing like being together for Shabbat. And there's even a way that being able to look every single person in the eye is a blessing. You know, Bill Lee is not blocking anybody's view from behind, and everybody's got the best seat in the house. And so we find beauty wherever we are and holiness wherever we are. And so indeed, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And let's see, I'm going to look around, speaking of seeing everybody in the eye, I think I saw, there's the Daniels, there's Josh, Daniels. Josh, wave. Yeah. Okay, well, tomorrow morning, Josh is going to be celebrating his bar mitzvah. And we are all so excited for Josh and delighted that Josh and his family are here this evening. And we look forward to their participation in the service this evening. And Denise Paley, thank you for being here with us this evening. We are very eager to hear your very important message. And I have to say too, I think last week, the cantor and I were noting in the counting of the Omer, that tonight we're going to be announcing the 34th day of the Omer, which means it's now the 33rd day of the Omer, which is in Hebrew called Lag BaOmer. And Lag BaOmer has traditions of people gathering and having bonfires, and it's festive and it's fun. And this year it's tragic because there was just a devastating occurrence in Israel with a stampede of Haredim, ultra-Orthodox, that had come some 10,000 strong to gather to honor the holiday of Lag BaOmer at Mount Meron in northern Israel. And as far as I know, there were 45 confirmed dead and 150 injured, probably more. It's the largest civilian tragedy in Israel's history. And so we pray for Israel and for those who lost their lives. And the world is too much with us. And so we're going to begin with the singing of a special song that helps us focus with right intention when tragedy hits. And that's Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We will rebuild this world with love. Can't. We will also rebuild this world with light. And so as we prepare to light the Shabbat candles, I'm going to ask Corey if you would spotlight the Daniels family. And if the Daniels family just says Shabbat Shalom, can you do that?
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, there you are. We're so glad to have you
Hi.
here. Yeah.
Thanks for having them later.
Okay, that sounds great. So in the Daniels family has a family tradition, and it's Maya Daniels who takes the lead in lighting the Shabbat candles every Friday night. I'm going to ask Maya, and also Josh, you don't have to go away. Rachel, if you would read the reading for the lighting of the candles, and then light the candles, and we will sing the blessing together. But you're going to have to unmute yourselves in order to read our reading.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give delight to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Beautiful. And if your mom's getting the lighter. Okay. Oh, there you go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. Thank you. And we are now going to turn to the singing of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei petei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei petei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, yishmehanu el hameyukad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet v'litchila la 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 la, lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei petei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikarem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat la 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 la, lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, b'nei penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva korech u'miori, u'piori shi'edaberi, keva
The sun is disappearing beyond the treetops, although I note with glee that it's disappearing later and later. And starting next Friday night, we're going to be outside for our services, physically together. Nevertheless, whether outside or on Zoom, we welcome Shabbat with song and prayer. Our table is set and the lights are lit. Every corner of the house is shining with a divine spark that says, Nivarech. It is time to sing Baruch Hu. Beloved are you, eternal God, soul of the universe, by whose design the evening falls, by whose command dimensions open up, and seasons pass away, and stars spin in their orbits. You beat the rhythm of day and night. The alteration of light and darkness sings your creative word. In westering sun and spreading dusk, God of all things, you are made manifest. Eternal and everlasting God, may we ever be aware of your dominion. Blessed are you, O Lord, in this serene hour of nightfall. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And how lucky are we who live on the shoreline to get views like this in abundance. And that super moon that was just so glorious in the sky. I hope that everyone was able to capture that, not only with their eyes, but now in their hearts forever. It's a sign of God's love for us. As we say, Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amcha ahavta. Everlasting love you have offered to your people Israel, by teaching us the Torah and mitzvot and laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu lemadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbeinu u'vekumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu be'orech yameinu Uvahem negeh Yomam v'layla, Yomam v'layla. Ve'avatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vidibarta bam, beshivtecha beveitecha, uvletecha vaderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beineinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet.
Micha Mocha, who is like you, O God, who created heaven and earth from the Big Bang to the smallest subatomic particle? Who is like you, who set the planets in motion and brought light to their moons? Who is like you, who painted the sky blue and gave us the means to appreciate it? Who is like you, who rustled up the air we breathe and the earth we walk on? Who gave us legs to stand on and hands to touch, a face to love? Who is like you, making yourself present in our deepest conversations, giving us children to love and to love us? Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor repair a ruined city. but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. We turn now to the prayer, Hatfilah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot Be'imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol Atarav Lehoshia, Morbid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishagnei Afar, Bichamocha Bal Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'neheman atalach hayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We take a moment to pray silently.
Oseh shalom, shalom bimroma, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Uyaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Oseh shalom, shalom bimroma, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael,
May the one who made peace in the heavens make peace on earth. we need peace on earth, and there are so many ways in which peace on earth is still a vision and not a reality. And one of those ways has to do with mental health and the challenges of mental illness and the challenges for our society, given the fact that we all struggle with mental health. And Denise Paley is here this evening to talk to us specifically from personal experience and from Jewish values about mental illness and incarceration. Our Jewish values teach us that there are three things that we have to do all the time. And one is that we have to speak about mental illness. Another is that we have to share our own real life stories. And we need to provide life-saving information. And Denise Paley's doing all three of those full-time, all the time. And we so appreciate and admire her efforts. And it's an honor to have her speaking with us this evening. So, Denise.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to collect myself while I try and share my screen. You know what, it says that my screen sharing is disabled.
Yes, it is, but you know what? We can give you that screen share in just a minute.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. There you go.
Let me just see if this will work.
And for people on your own view, you can adjust your view to speaker or gallery or still with the screen share.
Do you see just one picture or you see two?
We see one.
Okay, because sometimes I have a monitor and sometimes I don't know where. I have it off, but sometimes it winds up there. So first of all, thank you so much for that introduction, Rabbi. And I want to thank you for allowing me the space to speak with you this evening and for the love and support that I and my family has received from so many people at TBT. Without getting emotional, I will just say I'm not sure how I would be functioning today without the love and support that we have received as a family. So this evening, I'm going to talk about mental illness and incarceration because, and if you're wondering why it is so important to me, if you don't know, I have a personal connection with this. I have a son who, you know, was bar mitzvahed from TBT and a member of TBT, who his very first symptom of his psychotic disorder eventually led to him committing a crime. And he is currently incarcerated. And up until that point, I just really did not know a lot about the connection between mental illness and incarceration, which happens to be very connected. So with our experience, I've really taken a deep dive into why and the history and what can happen next. And I've entrenched myself in the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I've been doing work with Stop Solitary Connecticut. So I will have an ask for you from them before this is over. And I've done a lot of research. I've called, you know, public defenders, attorneys, medical professionals, legislators, people and families, you know, that are, I found this on the web. Oh, I'm sorry, that's my watch. Deeply involved with mental illness or, you know, with the Department of Corrections. And I have learned a lot and my eyes are wide open. And I really believe that education is the most powerful first step towards change. And, you know, when I saw the Daniels family on at first, for a second, I thought, you know, I wonder if the kids are too young, but you're not, because it's going to be young people coming through who are really going to take the stigma away from mental illness moving forward. So I wholeheartedly believe that. So this is basically the landscape of where we are here in Connecticut. You know, people with mental illness are severely overrepresented in the Department of Corrections in our state. And it's not something that's unique to Connecticut. The use of isolation is kind of unique to Connecticut, and I'll get into that in a minute. But across the nation, you are 10 times more likely to wind up in prison than a hospital if you have serious mental illness. So if you look at where Connecticut was in 2010, there were about 19,000 people incarcerated in our state. And of those 19,000, a little over 3,000 were suffering with serious mental illness, so about 16%. Connecticut has done a very good job in reducing the number of people who are incarcerated. So as of 2020, there are a little more than 10,000 people incarcerated. Most of them are unsentenced, but still almost 3,000 people are experiencing serious mental illness. So that number has not changed. We've doubled the number of people with serious mental illness in our prison system. And that's basically what we're doing here in Connecticut. We're using our prisons to house people with serious mental illness. If you look at just the straight number of psychiatric beds that are available, the most recent data that I can find is from 2016. There were 615 state psychiatric beds in our state. But that number is down from 741 in 2010. So we're not increasing the number of beds we have for people, we're reducing them. And this is on, just from all the work I've done with NAMI, this is not just for people who are incarcerated, this is across the board for mental health in Connecticut. But this is an example of just what is, and I just have to fix my view here for a second so I can see the slide, I'm sorry. But even if the DOC wanted to send more people to a hospital to receive treatment, they couldn't. So if you're in DOC and you have a psychiatric emergency and you need to go into an acute facility, you'd go to Whiting. This data is as of this week, as of April 26th, there are only 11 beds available in Whiting to treat people. So there just simply are not enough beds available to manage the number of people who need them. So they're forced to stay in incarceration. And basically, prisons, they are not a place of healing. They're just not. They are our largest mental health facilities, and they are not designed to be so. They are, understaffed. They are not run by mental health departments. They are run by corrections officers. So they are corrections officers. They're not trained to deal with people with mental illness, and often it winds up being exacerbated as a product of being in prison. There is mental health staff in prison in Connecticut, but they are under-resourced, and they work with goals that are designed to maintain. These are words that I hear, but a lot of people hear, to maintain, to manage, to restore to competency. You don't hear terms like recovery. So it's very, to get comprehensive treatment or the education that you need as somebody suffering to even understand what's happening to you. And I'll use my child as an example. That was Ellis's very first break. So there is so much unfolding to kind of figure out and understand about what on earth is going on. You can't get that in a prison. You need, people who are sick with mental illness to, they need more wraparound treatment. You can't get clinically meaningful treatment while you're incarcerated. Also, time is important. The earlier you can get somebody treated, the better the chance of them recovering on the other side. So I have done a lot of advocacy. I have done a lot of presenting in front of legislators and testifying. And I listen to the whole, oh, someone's in the waiting room. I listen to the whole, testimony, and I hear over and over again, people talking about the fact that recidivism rates are high, and, people come out of prison and they wind up being homeless. It's no wonder why they don't have the opportunity to recover while they're there. So when you look at people who are experiencing serious mental illness while they are incarcerated, this is across the board. They serve longer sentences than people do who commit the same exact crime but don't have it. And there are a number of reasons for this, but a lot of times there are rules that are set in prisons that people who have mental illness are unable to follow. And I listened to the testimony for the PROTECT Act. There were over 100 people who testified. And I heard person after person kind of talk about how their mental illness was exacerbated, and because of it, they wound up spending more time isolated. And I'll just give you a very brief example, but there was a young woman there who was talking about the fact that she was a cutter. She self-harmed herself. That was a symptom of her illness. But every time she would harm herself, they would extend her time in isolation. And that can extend your sentence overall. And parole is based on that. If you want to apply for early parole, it's based on how well you behave while you're incarcerated. But when you have serious mental illness, it's difficult to follow the rules that are set. Also, people with serious mental illness are more likely to experience trauma while they're in prison. They're more likely to be psychologically and physically, they're more psychologically and physically vulnerable, and they are subjected to higher rates of victimization. And as I mentioned earlier, they're also subjected to greater use of isolation. So, and if you are experiencing behaviors that include hallucinations or delusions, and then you're isolated, that is just going to exacerbate your situation, exponentially. But also, if you are depressed or have anxiety, just think about what severe isolation can do to somebody. So the wraparound treatment that's needed is not there. And it's also very costly. And, I don't think I'm speaking to anybody here who is really concerned about the cost, but it does put a burden on our state. It's about twice as expensive to keep somebody with serious mental illness incarcerated than without. And it's about 3 times as expensive to incarcerate someone with serious mental illness than it would be to provide them treatment in a community setting or an outpatient, an assisted outpatient treatment setting. So we went into this problem over and over again as a state, and I listened to legislators talk about why this is happening, but a lot of this happens upstream where people wind up going from an emergency room into prison. They wind up back on the streets, back into an emergency room, back into prison. Many of these folks are not committing violent crimes. They're just, something is happening with their disease that is causing them to behave in a way that they ultimately wind up being incarcerated for. And often when they're incarcerated, they are treated more punitively than they would otherwise be if they were able to have greater control or command of their behaviors. Okay, so this is the PROTECT Act, which was mentioned, as part of the reason I wanted to address everybody today. This is actually a current bill right now. It was just voted out of committee and it's going to the Senate. And this bill is designed to prohibit extreme isolation in the Department of Corrections in Connecticut. So it would prohibit isolation for more than 16 hours a day in a cell. And being isolated for 16 hours a day probably sounds like a lot, but my child, without being penalized, without being in trouble, just his regular routine is to spend 20.5 hours a day in his cell every day. That's what he is forced to spend now. He had spent time in the infirmary for his mental illness. And when he was in the infirmary, he was just recently in the infirmary for 2 weeks straight. And they call it the infirmary, but it meant being isolated for 23 hours a day while he was there. So this would end that. It would allow a few exceptions. So sometimes there are reasons where you just have to do it. There could be a fight, there could be something in it. There could be a fire, some kind of dangerous situation. That would be different. But it would also end the use of abusive restraints. So it would not allow DOC to restrain people for more than 4 hours at a time, because that happens. And it would also be beneficial to the corrections officers that are working in DOC. It would require training to support the staff there, and it would help them mitigate the trauma that they do sometimes experience just by the product of the environment that they're working in. You know, prison, it is a hostile, intimidating, depressing environment, and it can be that way for anyone there, whether they work there or they are inmates there. So Connecticut has actually been known for using different names, you know, for solitary confinement. So sometimes they'll call it things like administrative segregation. In, you know, Ellis's case, he was in the infirmary. It's all the same. So the DOC in Connecticut has actually been called out by a United Nations human rights expert. And his name is Nils Meltzer. And he was quoted for saying the DOC in Connecticut, he is referring to, appears to routinely resort to repressive measures such as prolonged or indefinite isolation, excessive use of in-cell restraints, and needlessly intrusive strip searches. Okay, so he said there seems to be a state-sanctioned policy aimed at purposefully inflicting severe pain or suffering, physical or mental, which may well amount to torture. So the PROTECT Act would keep this from happening anymore. So as I mentioned, it's been voted out of committee. Anybody here who's wishing to help support the PROTECT Act, and I hope you do, can get more information at stopsolitary.org. There you can sign a petition that shows that you support the act, that you're in favor of it. If you really want to get involved, other things you can do that would be helpful. One would be to write to the Senate leadership and ask them to call the bill to a vote sooner rather than later, and to write to your state senator, either where you live or you work, and let them know that you support the bill. If your senator is Christine Cohen, like a lot of ours is, you can send her a letter and thank her because she has actually signed on as a co-sponsor of the bill. So that is all I have.
And so I'm going to unmute and just say, if people can have questions or comments or if you have questions, you can either just unmute and ask a question, or I see the first, or any comments you have. The first one is if Denise, you can share the slideshow with the congregation, that would be great. So can you send it our way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Even if it's just that one slide that has the contact information.
With the links,
Yeah, that one.
I'd be happy to share it. I could, you know what, I could put the links into the chat if you'd like.
You know, better if you just, because I can pull, people who have iPods and pads can't always pull everything off, so.
Okay, sure, I'll send it.
That would be great. Yes.
So as Jill Lesage says, thank you, Denise, you are inspirational. And the link, Susie put the link in the chat, so anybody who wants to get it can get it from there. And Denise, it is just a marvel to see you in action. And, you know, we started with singing our opening song, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We're going to have to build this world with love. And I see what the power of love does, because, and for those who don't know him, Ellis Bear, now I'm going to cry, is a dream. He was a teacher's dream, a rabbi's dream. He had a wonderful bar mitzvah. He was beloved by his confirmation class. He was a mensch. He's a dream. And he's a love. And the power of your love for him to change, to work to change not only his circumstance, but the world as it is truly, truly inspiring for all of us. And I believe that you're going to see signatures and communications and petitions and help, and anything, any way that we can help, we will help, because we love you. And God bless both of your children who have two extraordinary parents. We think about all those kids who may be in similar situations who don't have the strong family and the strong community structure that you have. And
You know, Rabbi, if I may, I just want to say, it's true. And, you know, some of the conversations I've had with you about love and kindness and where you find God, they've all resonated with me very strongly. And, you know, there are a number of things that I'm advocating for. So, but just looking at helping people who are incarcerated, you know, I testify, you know, the fact of the matter is I feel, you know, blessed in a lot of ways that I'm in this position where I still have the strength to advocate and do something. There are so many people who can otherwise get left behind. And when I think about the good that came from this, is that now I know, you know, when this happened to Ellis, I just thought like, all right, we'd explain he's sick, and they'd be like, okay, well, we'll put him in a hospital and we'll get him better. And it's, you know, and people ask me all the time, like, can't you just explain that he's sick? He's one of thousands. He's one of thousands of people. And, you know, we have had a tremendous amount of love and support, but there are thousands of people who have not, and who, if other people don't do it for them, no one's going to do it for them. You know, when you think about there are 10,000 people who are incarcerated, and if, you know, one family member from every person incarcerated could have spoken up at the Protect Act hearings, the bill, you know, it would have ended. It's just not how it is. So I really do. I believe that people who, once you know, I don't know, I do. I feel like there's an obligation to do something about it when you know, and you can. So.
thank you. Thank you, Denise. You've inspired us all. And we're going to turn now in our service. So first I'll invite you, you know, at the end of the service, if you want to hang out more, please do. Let's do that after our Kiddush and Motzi. But right now we turn in our service to the counting of the Omer. And it's somewhat of a dumbfounding contrast from this sobering message that we just heard to what the focus is for today and for this week in the counting of the Omer. Dumbfounding, but maybe with reason and necessary, because the value that we're supposed to focus on this week is the value in Hebrew called hod, and hod means glory. And the challenge is to ask ourselves how we can see life as glorious. And after such a sobering talk, it makes it extra challenging to see life as glorious. But it makes it extra important too, because it's what keeps us going. So how is it that we can permeate our lives with an appreciation of the wonders of the world in which we live, and maybe even this week to try each day to ask ourselves to say, how glorious is this day? And see what happens from there. Cultivate a sense of appreciation and a sense of awe and a sense of gratitude, and appreciate the glory of the world, for the world is indeed glorious. And so as we count the Omer, we're on our march from Passover to Shavuot, and Cantor will let us know just where we are in our 49 steps.
So
Cantor.
first, our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom arba u'shloshim yom shehem arba shavuot v'shisa yamim la'omer. Today is 34 days, which is 4 weeks and 6 days of the Omer.
Wow. We're going to turn now to our Misha Berach and offer a prayer for those in need of healing. And this evening we include in our prayer Bonnie Stoddard, Josh Lipschutz, Patty Hayes, Carol Gordon, April D'Amato, Joan Sidney, David Char, Ira Weiss, Matthew Tolchin, Marie Guzzi, Brandon Guzzi, Ken Silberstein, Tina Chamack, Gail Sherman, Jordan Lustig, Carrie Siegel White, Evelyn Haindel, Jan Sterling, Connie Ambrosino, Deborah Poulin, Ruth Forrest, Bonnie Simon, Ben Peck, Sarah Bryant, Jennifer Murphy, Harriet Cohn, Haggerty, and Jess Frisch. Please feel free to put other names in the chat of people for whom we pray for Refuah Shlema. Our Misha Berach.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Susie Frisch, if you would please unmute and let us hear your voice.
Hello.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. My name is Susie Frisch. I am the treasurer of the board of directors and the chair of the Capital Campaign Steering Committee. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to any guests who are here with us tonight. And I know there are guests from the Josh Daniels extended family. Thank you for joining us for this meaningful Shabbat. Denise, I'd like to extend a special thank you to you for sharing your inspirational and powerful message with such important information about mental illness and incarceration. And thank you also for trusting us with your deeply personal story. It was extraordinary to hear you and to be here with you to come in aid of Ellis and everybody who is suffering from these issues. I hope that everyone will join us for one or more of the wonderful Shabbat opportunities we have tomorrow, all on Zoom at 8 a.m. Please join us for mindful meditation. At 9 a.m., join us to explore this week's Parsha at Torah study. And at 10 a.m., celebrate Shabbat and welcome Joshua Daniels to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. Josh, mazel tov to you and your family. The links for all of these events are in your email inbox. A few reminders about other upcoming events. On Thursday, May 13th at 7:30, please join us on Zoom for a very special session of our Jewish journeys. Rabbi Offner is going to share her unique Jewish journey with us. Please RSVP to the office if you would like to receive the Zoom link. On Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m., please join us on Zoom for the TBT annual meeting. Hear the recap of this year, plans for next year, learn about our next Friesner Scholar, and elect next year's board of directors. The link will be sent to all members on the day of the meeting. Next Friday evening, May 7th, join us for Shabbat services in person on the green in front of the First Congregational Church in Madison at 6 p.m. The service will also have a Zoom link for those who cannot attend in person. And next Saturday morning, May 8th at 10 a.m., we will celebrate the bat mitzvah of Addie Reed. All of this information and more can be found on our website at www.tbtshoreline.org. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you so much, Susie. It's amazing to hear all the things that we're doing. Wow. It's wonderful. And we're going to continue in our service with this reflection now before Kaddish. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. At this time, we remember those who have lost just recently. We remember Bobby Wilbert, father of Michelle Jasny, Jack Davis, founding member of TBT and father of Jerry Davis. Also just this week, Jerry Muskin, husband of Carol Muskin and father of Ben Muskin and Amy Shelton. We remember as well those for whom we observe Yortzeit: Joseph Fenton, Charles Winokur, Patricia McCrary Smith, Alan Belcher. If there are others that you would like to include in our Kaddish this evening, please include them in the chat as together we turn to Kaddish. Yikadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrachu te v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam olamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemeda kudasha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, for all who mourn, for all the world. Together we say, Amen. Our closing song seems fitting. As we began, we said, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. We will conclude with Olam Chesed Yibaneh. And then we're going to stop the screen share and spotlight Josh, who will lead us in our Kiddush and Motzi. Olam Chesed Yibaneh.
I will build this world from love. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. And you must build this world from love. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. And if we build this world from love, yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da, then God will build this world from love. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. Olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. Olam chesed yibaneh. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. And if we build this world from love, yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da, then God will build this world from love. Yada-da, yada-da, yada-da-da. So Daniel's family, if you want to, yeah, perfect. Spotlight and unmute yourselves whenever you're ready to lead us in the Kiddush, followed by the Motzi.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim. Mhm. Beautiful Kiddush cup you have there too.
Yeah.
And our Motzi.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Amen. B'tevon, bon appetit. You can take a bite of that challah, and then if you would just put it in the share screen for us, we'll all reach in and take a taste ourselves. Ooh. Maya, you did a beautiful job too. So thank you to the Daniels family. We look forward to celebrating with you tomorrow. And we're going to take that spotlight. Oh, look at that. Again, wait. Do we have more?
One more.
There we go. Oh my goodness. What a picture. We got to take a little screenshot of you guys. That is great. And we're looking forward to seeing you all in person tomorrow at Camp Laurelwood, where we will be conducting the service, but the entire congregation is welcome to join from wherever you are via Zoom. So you've been very kind to let us spotlight you that long. We'll take the spotlight off of you so you can just be like everybody, normal people again. There you go. And now I can say to everybody, Shabbat Shalom, Denise
Shabbat shalom.
and
Shabbat
Daniel's family. Thank you for making it a meaningful, truly meaningful and inspiring Shabbat service this evening. Wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.